History talks about the generals, the flags, and the battle cries. But rarely does it speak of the men who forged those battles with fire and grit. Before rifles became common, the Filipino Revolution was fought with bolos, spears, and blades, all made by hand. The Spanish had guns. The Americans had Gatling machines. But the Katipunan? They had blacksmiths. In backyard forges. In sugarcane fields. In hidden workshops buried under banana leaves. These unsung heroes didn't need parades. They needed charcoal, steel, and silence. Because every weapon they made was a risk, and a revolution waiting to happen. This is their story, the men who turned fire into freedom. In many provinces during Spanish rule, blacksmiths, called Panday, were community staples. They made farming tools, horseshoes, nails, and knives. But when revolution stirred, their role changed. The same hands that forged plowshares began making weapons in secret. They didn't have advanced materials or factories. They had scrap iron, charcoal, and resolve. In places like Bulacan, Cavite, Pampanga, and Ilocos, these forges became hidden arsenals, supplying the earliest Katipunan uprisings. Every clang of hammer on steel was an act of rebellion. Every spark meant hope or danger. The Filipino Revolution wasn't built on imported rifles. It was built on the bolo. This blade, used for clearing brush and cutting sugarcane, became the sword of revolution. But it wasn't the only one. Blacksmiths created ginunting, curved sword used in Visayan and Southern warfare. Kris, wave-edged blade with spiritual symbolism in Mindanao. Tabak, broad, brutal blade for close combat. Sabat, spears sharpened from bamboo or hardened iron tips. These weapons weren't just tools, they were symbols of defiance, self-reliance, and local ingenuity. Because blacksmiths were essential, they were also targets. Spanish guards knew a blade could spark rebellion. So the Panday learned to work in silence. Many operated in mobile forges, hidden in rice fields, caves, even under houses. They used scrap iron, broken horseshoes, and tools melted down into new weapons. Some stole from Spanish supplies. Others melted old church bells. There are accounts of women smuggling steel shavings in their hair buns. Children hid weapon parts in baskets of bananas. Blacksmithing became an act of organized rebellion, a network of labor, secrecy, and trust. In early battles, especially in 1896, revolutionaries didn't have enough guns. But they had blades, and sometimes that was enough. At San Juan del Monte and other early confrontations, Filipino fighters charged with bolos and spears, knowing they'd face rifles. But the Spanish weren't prepared for the sheer courage and ferocity. Many surrendered out of fear. Some died with a bolo wound before they could reload. Blades don't jam. Blades don't run out of ammo. Blades speak the language of desperation and unbreakable will. Blacksmiths weren't just craftsmen, they were freedom workers. Some joined the Katipunan outright. Others stayed in the shadows, making weapons for those on the front lines. Many were tortured or killed for their role. Spanish authorities knew that behind every rebel, there was a blacksmith who made the fight possible. These Panday had no medals, no statues, and no history books. But their fingerprints are on every revolution that ever started in the Philippines. Because what is a hero without the one who gave him a sword? Today, few remember the Panday of the revolution. But their legacy lives in the bolo carried by every reenactor on Independence Day. The kris that still symbolizes courage in Mindanao. The smiths in Mindoro, Batangas, and Cebu who still work with fire. Modern bladesmiths now forge for ceremony, culture, and pride. But their craft remains sacred. Every blade made by hand today echoes the ones forged under colonial rule, by men who knew they might never see the battlefield, but who helped win it anyway. Not every hero shouts. Some only strike steel. The Filipino blacksmith didn't give speeches. He didn't ride horses. He stood beside a fire and whispered rebellion with every blow of his hammer. The fight for freedom wasn't just fought in the fields, it was forged in fire. In silence, in sweat. So the next time you hear the word Katipunan, remember the man in the back of the village. The one with the burn marks on his arms and the sparks in his eyes. He armed a revolution with nothing but heat, metal, and hope.